Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm so excited to be joining Trinity Stamps for their August release on YouTube Hop. We are using a bunch of products from the new release. This is the Simply Sentimental Teacher Stamp Set. There are also coordinating dies. This is the mini notebook paper, and then this cool clipboard die set has a piece of notebook paper that it die cuts out. And then there was the influential teacher stamp set that we will use as well. So I've cut out one of those pieces of notebook paper and I'm using a very pale blue ink, and we are just going to stamp carefully onto that. I only want to do it once because we're going to stamp something over the top of it. I made two of these. So I'm doing the blue in one color, and then there's a separate stamp for the red line that I did in a pale pink that goes down the side right by those holes. Then on only one of them, I'm going to add this influential teacher stamp set, and it sort of curves around some of those holes. It's awesome. I love this. Full disclosure, I'm a teacher, and so I have this huge spot in my heart for teachers. They just mean the world to me. I'm using my Ohuhu art markers. They're alcohol markers just to color in the different open elements of the stamp set. There's small areas, so it's not anything complicated. But while I'm doing that, I want to tell you about the hop. I will link below to the next stop on the hop and the details for the giveaway. Trinity Stamps is giving away a $50 gift card for this hop. 50 bucks, you guys. That's a lot of craft supplies. And this is an absolutely enormous release. It's got teachers, it's got Halloween, it's got fall, and it's all so good. I know that sometimes you hop along and it's like everybody's using the exact same set. That is not the case here. This is one of the coolest hops I think I've ever been a part of. I really love everything that people have made. They've outdone themselves. So be sure to hop along and check out the new release. Once I get everything colored in with my alcohol markers, I'm just going over the top of the stars, the heart, and the great teacher with some shimmer pen for a little added shine. So now we're going to make a shaker. I am taking that same notebook paper and I am going to cut it out of one of these clipboard pieces. So this is the board part of the clipboard. And I'm going to tape one temporarily onto the other, because inside the shaker, I'm going to put our piece that we stamped and colored. So I'm just using my wet glue and I'm making sure I get all the way to the edge. I don't want any shaker pieces getting caught behind it. And then I will just sort of fit that in like a puzzle piece to the frame that's on top. Then I can lift that frame up, and I know that when I put my shaker together, you're going to be able to see it perfectly. I have cut the board of our clipboard out of a piece of acetate as well to make that front of our shaker. And I'm using some wet glue. I'm just making sure it's a really thin amount of glue so it doesn't ooze out everywhere. My kids are still home for the summer. I don't have time for messy wet glue going everywhere. And then that will be the front of our shaker. I'm going to add some of the 1/8 inch double-sided foam strips right around the edges, and they fit beautifully. Sometimes I use dies to make shakers when they weren't intended for that. And then the foam, anyway, this was like it was meant to be. So I'm adding a little bit of wet glue before I add my shaker pieces. These are the Right On Clay confettis. They're little pencils, you guys. There's little pencils and big pencils, and they're so cute. These are the sparkle spots in white, and so they're super flat and kind of glittery, a little iridescent, and I love that. And then these are the iridescent holographic star confetti. I didn't want this super full. I want you to be able to read the message that's on the inside. This is for my youngest son's kindergarten teacher. We've had her before and she's amazing. You guys, my youngest is in kindergarten. Oh. And so I knew I wanted to make something really special. I am adding a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch teal cardstock to an A2 card base. And then honestly, I'm going to glue this kind of at an angle to that card base. You could be done here, right? Add the little clip for the clipboard, and that's an awesome card. But I wanted to be a little extra. I wanted to make something that was like pretty spectacular. So once I get that on there, we're going to work on a piece of notebook paper that will go on top. So you'll like lift it to reveal the shaker. I have the other piece that we stamped, and I'm just gluing a second heavyweight piece of white cardstock to that. So it kind of pops into place like a puzzle piece there, but I want it to be raised a little bit so it's easy to remove. This is one of the teacher word dies from the Influential Teacher Coordinating Die set. I cut the shadow out of white, and then I cut both the shadow and the letters out of white at the same time. So that will give me this layer that I've temporarily adhered just with some tape that will help me get the placement of my letters perfectly. I have used some black cardstock and one of the ripstick sheets behind it to cut out my black letters, and they just fit in like little puzzle pieces. It is so quick and easy. And then I didn't accidentally end up with glue that oozed out from underneath. And then I've glued the top white piece that I didn't want to keep on there to my sentiment. There are a ton of adorable, awesome little pieces in the cool Clipboard die set. So this is a pencil, and I have added the eraser, and then there's a little metal piece that goes right below the eraser. This purple piece, it debosses little lines, so it's like the edges of the pencil. There is also a teeny tiny die for the pencil tip. I used a Sharpie because that was easier, but you absolutely can add dimension and have the whole thing be made out of die cuts. There's this A+, and they both have shadows. Actually, the pencil has a shadow as well, and the shadow die for it can cut out the pencil on the Influential Teacher stamp set. It's so, all the pieces work so beautifully together. I'm absolutely astonished at how easy this was, as my head was like trying to come up with ways to make a cool card. It was so slick. This is a binder clip, and I have put the two pieces, blue pieces together, and actually I did it upside down. The tiny piece should go on the short side, but that's okay. It's fine. No one's gonna know. And then I added glue just to the little tips of the silver metal piece. And I tapped it off on my hand so I didn't have glue oozing everywhere. I'm gonna add a sentiment from the Simply Sentimental Teacher Stamp Set. This one says, "You're an A+." So the whole thing will say, "You're an A+ teacher." And I'm gonna heat emboss that in white on some black cardstock. And I love how this is sort of the reverse of the teacher. So this is white on black, that one's black on white. And it just, I think it pops. I trimmed it out, I turned it into a strip. I kept it really simple here. And now I'm gonna start adhering things only to that piece of paper, not to the clipboard, okay? So I'm trying to line things up so that the teacher and the "You're an A+ are gonna be parallel with the bottom of the card. And I'm just using my wet glue, and that gives me a little bit of wiggle room because the diagonal lines, well, they're straight, but they're at a diagonal on that piece of paper, right? It was mind bending trying to figure out when things were straight. So I've got it kind of lined up with my grid mat to help me out. On the pencil, again, I put glue behind the pencil, but not behind the eraser part. I didn't want to glue it to the clipboard. And then I'm going to put the A+, so it's kind of parallel with the lines on the paper. That's really the only piece that I did that for. I want to make sure Mrs. O'Connor knows that she's supposed to lift this off to reveal the shaker. So I thought it would be fun to hand write on my notebook paper the word "lift" just in that bottom left-hand corner. Though I'll tell you what, I gave it to my husband and he couldn't figure it out. But that might just be my husband. He usually figures it out pretty easily. I don't know. We'll write her a note inside. We'll see her tonight at back to school night. It's gonna be fine. I cut the clip piece out twice, once from some silver cardstock and then again from some heavyweight gray, and I just trimmed off the bottom of it where it's gonna overlap my notebook paper. And I will glue it down only where I have both pieces of cardstock. And then that way you'll still be able to remove the notebook paper. And I've used my wet glue just so I can wiggle it around, make sure I get a good fit. And then this binder clip, you guys, I moved it everywhere. There's a reason it's getting glued down after everything else, but I like it here on the edge where it's kind of hanging off the side with that pencil. And then I will add a few more of those holographic stars. just around the edges of our shaker piece. I think that that really just helps to tie all of the pieces together. And then we'll finish up our card, you guys. This is it. You'll lift at the teacher and you reveal the shaker. I love this so much. Thank you so much for joining me for a fun shaker card. Be sure to hop along and I will see you next time.